Brooks Kubina of The Advocate has reported that Steve Ensminger will be reassigned within the football program. Ross Dellinger has doubled down on that report, said sources are telling him Steve Ensminger is expected to retire as an on-field coach. The school is expected to announce it soon. Your reaction to kind of all of that?
Yeah, that's the same thing I'm hearing. I think when people initially saw reassigned, they thought moving him off of that and onto a tight ends coach again or passing game coordinator.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing right now after a guy who's been with this program for since 2010 has gone up from tight ends coach to offensive coordinator, won a national championship, and then obviously just been through a lot over the past couple of years. I think he's ready to hang up the headset, and for LSU, that's something to celebrate, given that one of your old quarterbacks, lasted through multiple head coaches and won a national championship and got all the way up to that OC spot and set a lot of records. And then this year, man, their ability to work through 3 first-time starters and still have the offense clicking, at least in terms of the passing game and all of the guys who opted out at receivers. So, I did hear, and I do expect that probably LSU will say something in this afternoon, where they come out and probably celebrate everything that's come with Ensminger being part of this program for 11 seasons.
Yeah, he did a great job. I think that was a guy's been an asset on the staff for a decade, and the last couple have been really, really good. So let's kind of keep things geared towards the recruiting side of thing as we talk about this. With the news that Bo Pelini is moving on and Scott Linehan is moving on, I would imagine those guys weren't stalwarts on the recruiting trail for LSU, and it shouldn't. I'm going to eventually ask how this thing finishes out as they juggle the pieces, but those two guys, not huge pieces on the recruiting trail, I'm guessing?
No. And look, they were on staff pretty much. Pelini joined in late January, Linehan in February, and in mid-March, they hit a dead period that is still ongoing. So this was kind of a class they put together, and it's already widely put together, that they never really met face-to-face with any recruits.
So let's talk about some targets, and you can bring them up by name or not, but I know that there at times, every situation's different, certain recruits who are really forging a relationship with one guy on the staff or 2 guys on the staff, and as LSU starts to play a little bit of musical chairs, you can see that may be an issue to some of the guys. I mean, if you want to mention Tristan Lee or any of the guys that they're looking forward to, are there any guys that may be moving around that could have a huge impact on 1 or 2 certain recruits moving forward?
I think when you just look at, for starters, of how this board has been shuffled, and Rajon Davis comes off the commitment list, given he didn't sign in December, and then he just reopened his recruitment process. I don't expect him to be back at LSU. So, you've got these 5 spots or so, 4 or 5 spots that you can fill, and the premium is offensive line. And Tristan Lee has always been there, and they're really talked a lot about re-recruiting the current guys on the roster. All 5 of the starting offensive linemen are technically draft eligible, given that I think Dare's a redshirt sophomore, or Chasen Hines a redshirt sophomore. So if you could get all those guys back, it certainly lessens any sort of blow you might take by just signing one guy in December on the O-line, but moving forward, I think that right now they're trying to just figure out, we have to finish with a tackle, and we have to finish with multiple offensive linemen. How do we get that done? And Tristan Lee's been up on that list for a while, but they just made Jordan Moko's final 3, who's the number 1 JUCO offensive tackle. They just this past weekend had Kimo Makaniole, who is a Florida State commitment, who didn't sign early because he wanted to look at LSU. He came in for the Ole Miss game and told me he had a great time. He's a guy that they could flip and can play a few different positions. And then I would keep an eye on, and he's always said, the transfer portal or grad transfers, and sometimes you don't know what's out there until later on, but they do know what's out there right now in Eric Wilson, who was a Harvard offensive lineman. He committed to Auburn. Malzahn got fired. Chiswick did too, obviously, but a long time ago. But Malzahn gets fired, and he didn't sign early, and he only has to sign financial aid agreement, so he doesn't even have to wait to any sort of window. But he was going to wait and see what happened at Auburn. Obviously, a lot of people are still waiting to see what happened at Auburn, and I think that's opened the door a bit here for LSU. And obviously, they have his former teammate in Liam Shanahan at center, and if you can bring in another guy that's got a lot of experience, and a lot of people, at least in terms of the evaluation of both of them, think that Wilson was probably further ahead than Shanahan was when he came to LSU. That would give LSU a nice piece there, knowing that you're probably not keeping all 5 starting offensive linemen, that this is another guy you could plug and play. So there'll be other positions we hear about Hunt over these next month or whatever, month and a couple weeks until signing day. But absolutely, O-line will be the chief focus. And if they add another skill position on offense or a corner on defense or something like that, or another linebacker potentially if they feel they need it, then that'll just fit into that final spot or two. But everything else will be focused on O-line.
So as we look at potential candidates to be an offensive coordinator, Russ Calloway is a name that's gotten tossed around a lot. He's on staff this year, younger guy, comes up through that spread, and his job was to kind of do some of the things that Joe Brady had instituted. Do you know if he's done any, we can't obviously leave campus or anything, but done anything on the recruiting side, and do you think he's a candidate that O would look at?
Yeah, he's done a bit on the recruiting side. He's a guy who was close with Max Johnson because he coached in Georgia for a time, and that's given them a good relationship. And then he's also had a good relationship with Nussmeier, who, when Nussmeier's father was at Alabama, so was Russ Calloway, and they known each other through that. So he's actually had his hand in a bit of recruiting. And you kind of mentioned it to lead off. Guys like Ensminger and Pelini and Aranda, they spend the bulk of their time coaching and watching film and game planning and scheming and all that. And guys who, the Russ Callaways will be their right-hand man and help them out on the recruiting trail. And so he's had a bit of that going on. And you're right, he's a younger guy. He seems to be quite likable from his stop at Stanford and now into LSU. And I know this. I've been told by multiple people, and I'm certain this is how Ensminger feels, and I'm not speaking to what Russ Calloway's future might be, but he's viewed as an excellent quarterback coach. I mean, that's kind of his bread and butter. And we've seen with the passing game coordinator role before, it's been guys who might be wide receiver, kind of that's their expertise, which would have been a Jerry Sullivan type, into Linehan, who's, was kind of third down and red zones and just overall helping out. I think that Callaway is viewed as that guy who really can, do a bit of it all, but for sure they think that, other coaches who have worked with him and then guys who have played for him. I talked to Devlin Hodges, who was kind of his guy at Samford and is now at the Steelers, for an article that I haven't written yet. I was kind of waiting to see whatever happened with everything, but he said he's the best quarterback coach he's ever been around, and that he just understands how quarterbacks work. And he worked on the defensive side at Alabama, so he's got a really good idea for the defensive side of the game. And it seems like he's got a bright future. I don't know what they're going to think about the next OC spot, obviously, and I'm certain that they're going to take their time and probably have a handful of candidates. But if there's one guy on staff you'd circle right now, he seems to be the guy, at least in terms of moving him from off the field to on the field in some sort of role, would make sense because O and them have praised him a good bit.
Shea Dixon from Go247 Sports. We appreciate some time. Shea D, Merry Christmas to you and the family. Y'all unplug for a bit, and we'll see you in what should be a wild January.
Oh, does it have to be? Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
okay.
It does.
All right.
I need commitments. I need guys showing up in Baton Rouge. We got to get the reset button. We got to restock the shelves, and I'm counting on you to break that news to me so that I can know it.
Yes, there's just so much pressure. Oh, man. All right. I enjoyed it. Happy Merry Christmas, hon, and to all my 104.5 family. I love you guys.